Okay, we'll go ahead and get started here. This is session 6, our final session for the virtual workshop. Vasu Misra will also be chairing the session. Let me go over just a couple of the housekeeping reminders before we get started. If you have any type of technical difficulties, please just go to readytalk.com. They'll be there to assist you. We're recording this workshop, including this final session, and we'll make an archive version online after the workshop is over, sometime early next week. Everyone is on mute. I'm going to remain on mute for the presentations. We'll go through 3 presenters, and we'll have plenty of time for Q&A for this panel discussion. There's going to be 2 ways to ask questions. Vasu will be chairing, and he'll be calling on speakers who raise their hand so that we can take you off mute and you can ask your question of the panelist. We do ask for this session that if you have a specific question for a panelist, that you direct it towards them, whether that's George or Nick or Shangping. Please direct which speaker you're asking to, or if you're asking to the entire panel. That would make it much easier. And the same thing for the chat. If you type your question in the chat, we'll go ahead and read those out loud and queue those up as well. And if it's for a specific panel member, please make sure it's indicated in your chat feature. You can only do the audio with your hand raised and us taking it off mute if you've connected via your phone or voice over IP. If you're just listening in broadcast mode, you must only type in your questions via the chat feature. We'll be wrapping up today by about 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and each of the panelists will have about 10 minutes for their opening remarks, and then we'll go into Q&A. With that, I would like to turn it over to Vasu again.
Thank you, Kristen. This is Vasu Misra from Florida State University. Good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to this final session of this virtual workshop. I would like to thank the 3 panelists who agreed to come in this very new experiment of conducting a virtual panel discussion. And we have invited these 3 specific people to touch upon 3 very distinct aspects of this region. Dr. George Huffman is a remote sensing expert specializing in remote sensing of rainfall, and he is at NASA. We have Professor Nick Shea from University of Miami, who will be talking about heat content and its importance for tropical cyclone intensification and such. And then we have Professor Shangping Ji from University of California at San Diego, who will be talking about modeling issues in this region. They will each talk for about 10 minutes. And so the first 30 minutes will be their opening remarks, followed by a Q&A session. And I would like to repeat again that if you have a question that is specific to a panelist, please point that out so that we don't have multiple people speaking at the same time. Otherwise, any one of the panelists can head to answer the question if it is not referenced to any specific person. With that, I invite Dr. Huffman to come over and take over the controls. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. I get that. Oh, I know. There we go. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here and be part of this experiment. I'm old enough to remember when the dominant technology was a carousel projector and the overhead projector, and the question was, could you replace a light bulb really fast when it was still hot? And now the question is, does your browser support the plug-in? I'd like to spend just a few minutes talking about precipitation, and I'd like to broaden out a little bit to other earth science data, because NASA certainly is not just precipitation. So here's a slide next to my face so you can actually see what I look like of the various earth science missions that are either in operation or development or formulation. And what I'd like to do is point out that there's two of these missions that I care about the most. The one in the top, the Tropical Rainfall Measuring Mission, had, among other things, the first weather